Who do you think?
Michael Davis is that'd be my guess.
Pass defenses? What do you mean? What's it?
Yep.
What's
so like batting a pass down?
Oh, okay, got it. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm looking at it right now. So yeah, Michael Davis.
Michael Davis. Well, now you did. Thanks for cheating. That was supposed to be. That was a.
I'm looking at the stats as well. So
reading through that. And,
Welcome everybody. We're the Bolt Bros. We are actual brothers, and we're all Charger fans. And we just want to engage with the community. We talk about the Bolts every single week as brothers, but we want to engage with the Charger community and have some fun in the process and talk all things Chargers. Bolt Bros!
Bolt Bros!
Bolt Bros!
Let's get into it! Well, let's switch on to defense and go through some stats on that, right? I mean, while James is pulling up some stats, my thought really defensively was our biggest challenge. And I will say this, in my opinion, when we look at the defense, I asked myself this question: do we have the right personnel to actually execute Brandon Staley's defense? And the answer is no, in my opinion, right? We didn't have Aaron Donald. We didn't have Ramsey. We didn't have the defensive cohesiveness that the Rams have.
Yeah.
And, Tillery had flashes of brilliance. We just didn't have cohesiveness all season. And you have to remember, too, Brandon Staley runs a very different pro NFL offense. He runs a too high safety. So we just didn't have the personnel to execute. You can argue, well, you got Derwin James, you got Joey Bosa, but they're not Aaron Donald and they're not Ramsey.
Oh, those are 100% different types of positions,
Exactly correct.
Yeah, yep. I mean, because you're talking about a freaking defensive tackle versus a defensive end, and then a cornerback versus a safety. So, those are different positions entirely. Like it's But then again, I would say though too is that Staley should have just adjusted his plays for those in mind. Obviously, a freaking Aaron Donald type of player is one in 1,000. At the most.
Exactly.
That dude is a freaking monster. And Jalen, those lockdown corners, those are 1 in 100,000 too. So it's
exactly.
They are super clutch, but then of course Derwin James is also 1 in 100,000 too, as that position. So and Joey Bosa is just the same too. All these players are such phenomenal players. I don't really see why. I mean I know Staley was talking about that too. It's I don't really see why that would have made such a significant problem. I mean maybe you guys can elaborate on that a little bit more or.
It's kind of a hard thing to think about with the defense. And I mean, Aaron Donald gets double teamed. And, if we go and compare Staley's defense at the Rams, I think they were, I don't have these stats purely in front of me, but I think the Rams had basically about 17 points per game being the one defense last year under Staley. Yep. The thing is that when you have a player like Aaron Donald that can disrupt the line and force basically 2 people to go on him, and even 3 people sometimes, that opens up everybody else in that defense to be able to rush after the quarterback.
Exactly right.
And once again, these players like Aaron Donald that are dynamic that allows, say, Floyd to do really, really well and thrive in a system like that, because now he's got a single guy covering him, which could open up to be able to rush the quarterback, get kind of a pressure situation, a sack, a fumble, whatever it might be. If you put pressure on the quarterback, it makes the backfield look better, because maybe that quarterback's going to throw the ball and throw it to get a pick or whatever it is. Maybe he'll get sacked for a fumble. I mean, Joey Bosa, I think, was one of the tops in the league, and I think might have been the top in the league for fumble strip sacks.
Right.
And so that's pretty incredible to think about, where Nuwasu was on the other side, which he had the game of his life against the Raiders. That was a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
And he's had games like that where he just goes and he just looks like a phenomenal player, and he actually has on stats. I think he has some pretty good stats this year too. But I think the thing is though, with a player like Aaron Donald, which we do not have, we have Linval Joseph, who is an older guy. He's in his kind of mid-30s. We got Justin Jones, who's a good guy, and I think he will be good. Tillery, like what Andy was saying, we've had some flashes with him, not consistent sometimes. Sometimes games a bit lazy at the line. Sometimes that's just my opinion. We don't have that guy to fill, and those are things that we could talk a little bit about in the draft. That I think 100%, even in the press conference, Brandon Staley talked a lot about. We know what we need to do and how we can make this team better on the defensive. It's going to be the defensive line.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of focus in free agency, which we have plenty of money to work with there. We have tons of draft picks.
Yep.
A lot. We got a lot of money.
And I think it's going to get bigger too, because I think there's going to be some cuts that happen that actually help out the cap, which I know we're talking on defense, but I'm going to say Brian Bulaga is probably going to get cut, which is going to save about $10 million on the cap. So I will honestly say that was Brian Bulaga was probably easily the worst pickup we could have had.
Yeah.
Oh, easily,
yeah. He was always out every game. He was never in.
I think he only played like 50% of his games, like at most,
I don't even think it was that. I mean, even this year, I think he played basically a quarter for us, and that was it. And it was just either which way. That needs to change, and I think that's going to help out a lot of money for us for defense.
Yep.
And so, even if I want to go down some of the rankings too, I mean, yards per game, defense that we gave up, we're 23rd in the league, 360 yards in comparison to 390 to the offense.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not much difference there.
Yeah.
30th against the rush to our 21st in the league.
Yeah.
We were 12th in the league against the pass, 221 yards. And then points per game that we gave up was 27 in comparison to 27.9. So
we were right
almost
there.
a 1 point difference. It was almost a 50-50 game, basically every game for us.
Yeah.
See, that's exactly why we had so many close games. Every single game was close, right?
Yeah.
And again, Brandon Staley, his exit interview with the media was amazing. And there was a few things that he kept talking about on there is that we've created a team, and I think there's a great culture for the Chargers and an awesome base on the offensive side, but they have not created a complete team, right? And I never really understood what he totally meant by that, right? But we're not playing well on all three phases of the ball. That's offense. I think we're doing fine on that. Defensively, horrible. And special teams, not good. I mean, we're maybe better than we were last year, arguably, but we got lots of problems on those two phases of the ball moving forward.
Right.
I mean, I'll give you one thought. One last thought. Think about the Chiefs, how they started the season. They did not start well offensively, and their defense was abysmal. And they lose like 3 games. We smoked them in Kansas City. But when did they get good? Their defense stepped up and started shutting down the other team. So you can't really win unless you really have all three phases of the ball. And that's one thing Brandon Staley continues to preach. So I think you're exactly right. We're going to focus out on that heavily in the offseason. Heavily.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking here at player stats. Linval Joseph, he was the top tackler for the D line with 57 total tackles and only 1 sack the entire time. Yep. But 3 tackles for a loss. However, Bosa had 10.5 sacks. And so his tackles were a lot better. Like, I guess, in the long run or whatever, but really our linebackers, Kaiser White and Drew Tranquil were like top tier, and Derwin James and Nasir Adderley were like also top tier as well.
Didn't he have a great year? Nasir Adderley stepped up.
He stepped up a lot. I
had so many doubts with him, and he killed it.
Yeah. Like, he really stepped up and really showed us who's boss,
Absolutely.
Yeah, he had 99 total tackles and
Who do you think's the one guy in our defense backfield that had the most pass defenses on the team? Who do you think?
Michael
Most-
Davis is what that'd be my guess.
Pass defenses? What do you mean? What's it?
Yep.
What's
So
like?
batting a pass down.
Oh, okay, got
Yeah.
it. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm looking at it right now. So yeah, Michael Davis.
Michael Davis. Well, now you did. Thanks for cheating. You know, that was supposed to be that was be a
I'm looking at the
know,
stats as well.
go over
So
here
like,
just
yeah.
reading through that. And, you know, and the one thing that I was just gonna say is about with like the stats of like the past defenses and everything. You know, and one of the things is that I don't feel like there was a heavy amount of interceptions in comparison to previous years and everything. And I think that once we have that defensive line, and we could really, the key stat of this whole thing obviously is the rush defense and also the amount of points that we give up in a game. Even Gus Bradley's defense, I don't feel like was ever like phenomenal against getting the points per game down. But if we could get that guy, and I'm saying an Aaron Donald kind of guy in the defensive line to really help out the entire offense or defense, excuse me, it will be probably a completely different year for us at that point. If our offense could do what we did this year, it's probably going to be just as high and highly ranked as it was in 2021, and it'll probably be the same in 2022. If we could just get that defensive line situated, I think it'll be a phenomenally different team at that point. And I think going back to Brandon Staley on the fourth down situation, I think that'll adjust too, because I don't think we'll need to do it at that time. I mean, I think that's only something that we need to do because our best defense was our offense, and we had to make those choices. Keep the ball in the player that makes you the plays. So either which way, I think it'll be a great year next year if they fix that line.
So why don't you give us a ranking there, James?
Yeah.
On the defense.
Man, I mean, it's always that rush defense for us, and or excuse me, that run defense. We basically couldn't find a way to be able to stop it all year, and it ended up being our bane of our existence for the entire year and ended our season that way. And so it's very hard to be able to look at a lot of positives on a lot of different things on that. But I'm going to say a C-. I mean, it's going to be sad. I might be a little bit. I was almost leaning into a D a way, but
that's generous. That's generous in my opinion.
And that's generous, exactly. That's
wow.
But I'm saying C-. And why I'm saying that, I think the bright spots are there. Asante Samuel Jr., I think, did pretty well as a rookie coming into this year. I think Nwasu showed some flashes there too. Obviously, Joey Bosa did Joey Bosa things. I think that there was some highlights. Even Kaiser White was a highlight. Derwin James coming back from an injury too and playing the way he played. He had 118 tackles, I believe, or something like that. It was pretty close to like something. Like
Kaiser White was 144 tackles this year.
Yep. And
that's incredible.
James,
yep. And when Derwin James was out, he was actually the play caller on the defensive side.
Yep. So, I mean, we have those pieces. Figure out that D line. That's all I need. So I'm saying C-. There are some highlights. There's a lot of lowlights. So C-.
Kyle, what do you think?
Well,
what's your ranking?
Yeah. So, obviously the run defense was like actually our absolute worst, bane of our existence. Like, I think teams were able to run like at least 150 to 200 yards every game. Clearly, like we gave up 29 points per game on average, which is 29th in the league overall. And that was just the problem. We can always put points on the board, but we couldn't keep points off the board from them. Our takeaways stats were pretty low. We only had 11 picks. We had a bunch of forced fumbles, but a lot of those fumbles were also were picked up from recovered by the team itself. And so takeaways are a big thing, and third and outs are a big thing. And I didn't see a lot of those things happening. What I saw a lot happening at these games was a lot of first downs being converted to first downs, second downs being converted to first downs. I didn't see a whole lot of third down, fourth down situations for the other teams because they didn't have to. So
yeah, exactly right.
So my grade for the defense this year would probably be a D-, actually.
Yeah.
And that's. like I kind of wanted to lean towards D plus just because of like, because I love them and I want them like, I I wanted like to be good to them, but it's like I just couldn't. I was just like, it's got to be D minus for me. So
yeah, and I would agree. I mean, I think right now, it's clear we do not have a complete defense to be successful game on game, right? And
Right.
have a complete team defense. So my ranking would be a D. And I think, it's interesting because I see a lot of forums where people talk about the Chargers as, oh, we got to get rid of this person, we got to get rid of that person, whatever. And you could argue that we don't have the right personnel, right? We don't have an Aaron Donald, we don't have a Jalen Ramsey, but at the end of the day, some of these other players could fit better in the normal NFL schemes that other teams are playing. But with what Brandon Staley wants to run, where he has a too high safety, we need the line to be disrupted, and we did not have a real disruptor. And again, they were double teaming Linval Joseph all year. They double teamed him.
Right.
And so it made it really hard for us to be cohesive. And you have to also remember we had a lot of injuries. I mean, think of the Texans game where basically we had second stringers and practice squad guys running the defense. We just got burned. Burkhead smoked us for so many yards. So I get our depth is not there. We don't have the right personnel to really run Brandon Staley's defense correctly. So I think that's going to be huge money in preseason or off season, and the draft class is going to be completely stacked with those folks.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's the thing, man. I mean, that's our bright spot that we have to look at this whole thing. And I've been saying for a while now, a couple things that I've been saying. One, Justin Herbert is Super Bowl ready. The team has just needs to catch up to him.
Yep.
And two, the other thing is we have 11 draft picks, plenty of money to work with. And essentially this team is Anthony Lynn's team, essentially still. Like a lot of the players are still from those same guys that he inherited. And year two has to be that leap for Brandon Staley to say, look, we built the team that I want. 11 draft picks gives you a lot to work with.
Right.
Mind you, I think there's going to be a lot of trades within those draft picks because 11 picks is a lot of picks. Like, but he's going to build his team to the guys that he wants in those positions. And I do think there's some great defensive tackles, guys that we could go after in the draft. I think there's a few of them in the free agency that we could go after, but I think next year is going to be a phenomenal year, and we'll probably do a whole video based upon next year predictions for next year.
Of course.
100%. Yeah.
Guys, thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching the video all the way till the end. Bolt Bros.
Bolt Bros.
Woo! Bolt Bros.
See you, boys.